Gun control lunacy on full display. I'm Brian Lilley with TheRebel.Media. I told you recently about Justin Trudeau's plan to have the new Liberal government sign on to the United Nations Arms Trade Treaty. He sees this as a vehicle for good, even though many of the countries that have drafted the treaty are, well, far from stalwarts of democratic freedom and the ideals of liberty. The UN is for it, so he is as well. I've argued, and so have others, that Canada already has strict controls on the export of firearms to foreign countries. The UN Arms Trade Treaty won't improve the situation. It would actually give less than democratic countries more say in our domestic laws. Those current domestic laws, well, they're being used by left-wing anti-gun groups to try and stop Canada from selling arms to a country that is fighting for democracy. Ukraine is currently fighting off so-called rebels that are often actually Russian forces, and when not Russian forces, they're backed by Russia. Vladimir Putin wants to make sure that Kiev stays within his orbit, and, well, they want to stop them from turning towards the West and to Europe. The government in Kiev, meanwhile, has been asking Canada, the United States, and other would-be allies to help them with munitions to fight back against the Russians and Russian-backed forces. Canada wants to move in this direction. So last summer, the Harper government proposed adding Ukraine to the short list of just 39 countries around the world that Canadian arms manufacturers are allowed to sell to. The move would allow automatic small arms, standard for any military, as well as armored vehicles to be sold from Canadian firms to the Ukrainian government. Despite backing from Prime Minister Harper, it didn't go through automatically. It's being assessed by the Foreign Affairs Department. A report's being prepared. This is the system we have for arms exports. It's thorough, it's complete, it's far in excess of what the UN is pushing, and most importantly, it's a Canadian-made decision. I hope the incoming Liberal government approves this, but they're already facing pressure from their base to reject it because Amnesty International and Project Plowshare, two uber-left groups, have come out against this. Here's what they said in a letter to Foreign Affairs. We recommend that until they have mitigated these risks, Ukraine should not be added to the AFCCL. What's their reasoning for this? They point to police tactics used to, in the overthrow of the last government. Police tactics to stop the overthrow, well, to say these are human rights violations being committed. Here's the facts. A country that aspires to democracy, that is working with Canada and other international partners to improve the situation, is seeking help to fight back against an aggressive foreign force, and the anti-gun so-called human rights crowd wants it stopped. If Canada signs on to the Arms Trade Treaty, then selling arms to friends like Ukraine, a country that's trying to flee oppression, is going to get harder. Decisions like this belong in Canadian hands, and they don't need the input of groups like Amnesty or Plowshare. They would rather see innocents slaughtered at the hands of Putin's irregular army than see the forces of freedom armed properly.